Thank you. Jeez, what a great crowd. Thank you for being here. My name is Joan Cusack, and please join me in welcoming the producer and the cinematographer, Sam Davis. And this young gentleman, Sean Wang.
Thank you guys. I feel like we paid you guys or something. That was the best. That was the best crowd.
You guys know everything. Congratulations, guys. Thank you for making the time to be here. So I want to talk about the making of the film, but I want to begin a few weeks ago with the video that went around the world of the two of you with your grandmothers watching at 5 in the morning, whatever, when the Academy Award nominations were announced. And you were, by alphabetical order, your title was 5th in the list, which meant that we watch on the video as the tension keeps building, and eventually just this huge explosion with them there. What was that like? And I know that I wanted you to tell the story because it involves both of you, because you actually weren't with them. You were somewhere else special at that time, and you decided to come back.
Yeah, so I think what he's alluding to is I just premiered my first feature film at Sundance, and Sam also shot that film. So we were at Sundance in Park City. We premiered the movie on a Friday evening, and Nai and Wai Po were actually there, but they had to fly back to the Bay Area. Maybe like Saturday night, so they had left, and Oscar nominations are on Tuesday morning at like 5:30 in the morning. I don't know why they do that. But Sam and I thought, we've gone on this incredibly, surreal and unexpected journey with them, and so we thought it would be a fun surprise to go back and watch it with them. Just in the case that we got nominated, but even if we didn't, to just kind of wrap a bow on this journey together. So we flew home on Monday, got back at midnight, slept at 2 in the morning, or was up at 5 in the morning, watched the nominations with them, had the, suspense of the 5th film being announced, had that chaotic joy, and then half an hour later, got on a plane back to Park City.
And the grandmas actually thought that there's a delayed reaction if you watch the video, because they thought that we got 5th place. Like, no, you're going to the Oscars, and then there's a delay.
So anyone who hasn't seen it, I encourage everybody to go and check that out.
It's better than the film. Just kidding.
I can't remember which one of you, maybe Sam has said that this was an effort to make a film about old age, but through a lens that was very playful and very childlike. Can you describe that as sort of a motivation at the very beginning of the process for what you wanted to do?
Yeah, it started with this video that Sean made, which some of you may have seen, called A Christmas Card. And so his grandma's plotting to kill him because he refuses blueberries. So they look at each other and telepathically make a plan to kill him and bury him in the backyard. And it sort of went viral on the internet. And after that video came out, Sean and I started this conversation about what else can we do here? They're so interesting, they're so charismatic, they're so unique. And this film really evolved from that, and it was really important to us to find ways to capture that youthful spirit that you see that they have despite being a combined 183 years old.
We keep changing the numbers.
I think it's 182.
182. Okay. But yeah, what Sam said.
But Sean, I want to ask you about what's also very special is that it's a 17-minute film, and yet there are a lot of subjects that it's about that aren't directly addressed necessarily in the film. And you had gone to move back to live with them in spring of 2021, I think. Basically, there still is, a rise in hate crimes against Asians in the U.S., and they were feeling very scared. We do see that in the movie when they're reading the paper and talking about having out of the market in a while. But what was your impulse to make a film that in some ways was going to be about that, but not really about that in any explicit way? That was going to be about something much more life-affirming and much more playful.
Yeah, I think we made the decision early on, knowing that the film was kind of made as a response to all of that, kind of going back back to what Sam said, we knew that there was this childlike playfulness and youthfulness that they embodied, and that's what we wanted to honor. We knew it was a reaction to all of the anger and all of the sort of helplessness that I was feeling, but we didn't want to make like a political film that felt like a reaction. It was a film that was about them first and foremost, and for them, and made with them. And so, the context of that, the anti-Asian hate crimes and COVID, it's in the thread of the movie. It's why they're at home. It's why they're afraid to leave. But we never wanted to date our movie in that sense. We wanted it to be a movie about my grandmothers, not a movie about anti-Asian hate. But yeah, that was the catalyst, and that was ultimately that. We wanted to kind of put their joy and their youthfulness and their childlike infectious energy and humanity above all else. That was sort of the goal.
Well, a lot of us, I think, regret not having taken the time to ask our grandparents the questions. And I've heard it said from people their age that when you get older, your memories sometimes get younger, and they remember in this film things from their early lives. How special was that for you, not even as a filmmaker, just as a family member, to talk to them and to ask them questions in this way?
It's an interesting question. I mean, it was special in a weird sense because it was also painful. I think we knew that half of the movie was that. It was the joy, the silliness, the humor, the vibrant kind of humanity that they have. But we wanted to not ignore the other side of the equation, and we knew that if we're going to make a very complex three-dimensional portrait of these two women, they've lived such complex and deep lives, and to talk about who they were as people before they were my grandmothers is to explore a painful part of their lives and to explore a version of these two women in my life who, in my day-to-day, I see them wash the dishes, chop fruit, read the newspaper, and then have them talk about what it was like to survive, war and have to flee and sleep on side of the road. I'm like, that's the same person. And ultimately it was that. It was, when I watch the movie now, I see two languages. I see the movie where it's a grandson, me and Sam, the grandsons, making a movie with their grandmothers. And then I see the bridging of the gap of two generations where it's coming together as humans and being I know the broad strokes of your lives, but I want to know more. I want to know the deep details, and kind of like what you were saying, I'm lucky that they're still sort of capable of remembering all those things, even though they kind of want to forget it. But it was that desire to have a catalog of their records and the stories, because if they pass away and we never record it, that's how you lose family history.
Yeah. Very sweet. Sam, I wanted to ask about visual strategy, since you're the cinematographer as well. We do see the camera up high, kind of near the ceiling several times. What was actually going on there in the house? Were there cameras? Because the movie opens, of course, with them saying hello to you. And are they looking at the lens when they do that?
I'm actually not sure where they were looking. This whole film was really improvisational, as you can probably feel when you watch it, and it really felt like a return to film school in some ways for Sean and I, because that's how we met. We went to USC together, and this film was made with essentially no money and a tiny crew. It was Sean and I and a sound person, and so we stayed in his childhood bedroom, woke up every morning, and saw what the grandmas were up to, and if they wanted to take a nap, we would take a break. And that was kind of the approach to this shoot. So it was all very free-formed, and those shots specifically, I think we found a ladder in your garage, and I climbed up there. And not too much to it technically. We had no lights or anything like that, but I think this film's a good reminder that a lot of times, the most special projects aren't necessarily the ones that have the most resources or the highest profile, but the ones that come from closest to home. I always like to say, look no further than your own grandmas, you know, especially to other filmmakers who are looking to make something that they can feel intimate and something that you have really unique access to. Sean's the only person in the world who could have made this film.
I'm excited for future producers who hire Sam. Like you said, you didn't need any resources. No, Sam lit this film with a crack mirror that shattered halfway through production.
Which I don't feel like I can take too much credit for, because some locations just have the way the light falls in Sean's house is just, it's great. So
it was
and also you could just sit and wait.
Yeah,
There's
they were
no
napping. They were just, all right, well, I guess this is something.
We had no overhead, you know, there's no crew really. We just could just sit around, and if the light looked pretty hitting the floor, oh, great. Spend a while shooting that.
There's a lot of playfulness in what you show and what you don't show, even in a short film, because like we should mention that in the whiskey bottle, that's actually tea.
Is it?
Thanks a lot. Thanks what I've heard. But we don't know that. I mean, so what was the editing process like in terms of finding beats like that were going to be very humorous, but because they were delivered so quickly?
Well, it's interesting because I think going back to one up what Sam said about this film feeling like a movie that was shot, you know, when we were like in film school, I like to think of it as like a movie that we shot before we learned how to make movies. I think now, you know, as a filmmaker, you often want to go in with a plan. You want to kind of know how things are going to cut together. And I think typically when I shoot stuff, I know that things are going to cut together, but I don't know if it'll have that magic. I don't know if it'll work. I know it'll like logistically work, but I don't know if it'll really sing. But in this case, it was almost the opposite, where we shot for maybe 8 or 9 days, not really knowing how any of it was going to cut together, but knowing that what we were shooting was special. We kind of just knew that, oh, this is magic, it's gonna work. I don't know how it's all gonna come together, but we were kind of just following the feelings, and we were like, oh, that feels good, that doesn't feel good, let's pivot. And so in that sense, you know, I edited the movie too, and obviously Sam and watched a bunch of cuts with me, but it was a really long edit process because we knew we had all these, you know, pieces that were really magical, and I think our job as filmmakers was creating the clothesline where all of these sort of moments could feel like they belonged in one film. It was kind of like just putting a little puzzle together.
And then you also were able to, at the very end, to just give us a couple of quick little shots of things that had, I guess, a longer story in one version of the film. But we do see her at one point. Is she tapping you on the head, or she's
smacking me? Yeah.
She knocks him out.
Yeah. I mean, going back to like just the edit and things that were left on the cutting room floor, there's a version of this movie where, you know, because we knew the movie was a movie about my grandmothers, but it's also a movie about us making a movie with my grandmothers. And so there's skits and stuff where I'm like in it with them, and we just realized in the edit pretty quickly that I'm not magical, they are. So it's kind of just like, anytime we see Sean, let's just cut him out.
First cut is all Sean.
Yeah, it's all me.
But I think those skits, actually, we call them skits, and they're obviously the more tongue-in-cheek moments, like them arm wrestling or her drinking whiskey. But actually, to me, I think of those as being as just as truthful as the pure documentary stuff, where they're delving into their past, or they're, you know, composting in the backyard, because you're seeing an experiment, for lack of a better word, between a grandson and his grandmas, and an exercise in making them feel seen. And I think that's really the most powerful part about this film, is that, to be able to be there with at least from my perspective, to be able to be there with a camera and witness this and have them, you know, the movie being made in itself is special, because it's, like Sean said, a keepsake, you know, that he'll always have. But then for everything to happen since we made the movie, for it to go on Disney and for it to win awards and for us to be here, they just feel so seen. And, you know, the act of making the movie in itself was just stimulating to them mentally and physically. And it's a good reminder, I think, how much there can be to live for, you know, for our elderly, if they're just, you know, kind of given done as much as it should be.
Well, that's actually, we're gonna have a reception over just right nearby, and that's a nice kind of point to come to an end on. Also because, you know, the Oscars are in a few weeks. Congratulations, obviously, on the nomination. But like Sam said, I mean, you're not gonna come in fifth, like you're kind of required. But it's a case of, you must feel, win or lose, this is a huge gift to just have the film that made, the fact that it got finished and that it's out there.
Yeah, like we've already won. Obviously, it would be cool to win an Oscar, but like we've already had the most wild, surreal, amazing, positive journey, and the grandmas are really loving it. And I really do think that to bring them to the Oscars and give them this experience of like they're getting styled by Rodarte and Shirley Carrada, and to give them this, you know, core memory of going to the Oscars at 96 and 86 years old, and have them have fun and enjoy it. Like, that's the greatest gift that we could give to them and they could give to us. And like, I really feel like our job now is just making sure they have fun and seeing what we can kind of offer them. Also, Joyce Po is here. She did all the design in our movie. It's really beautiful. Malcolm's here, our other producer, our team is here. Julia Bichetti's here. Shelby is here. Okay.
And I did want to ask too, what has been the reaction in the Taiwanese media? Because they've been able to be interviewed by the press there. What has that been like for them?
I mean, it's amazing. There's a scene in the film where Nai says, you know, I get my spiritual fuel from reading the newspaper, and that's this Taiwanese paper called World Journal. And she reads it every single day, and we did an interview with them, and so one morning recently she got to read about themselves in the newspaper. So are you pulling up the photo?
Yeah. One sec.
You want to Chromecast it?
Yeah.
So it's been really special, you know. I think, again, going back to that feeling of being seen, right? They've been in their, you know, daily routines for so long. They have their rhythms of life. And for better or worse, you know, we kind of came in and disrupted it and gave them this incredible experience. And, you know, I can't imagine what that must feel like to just read the newspaper and kind of be like, whoa, that's us.
For those of us who want to see what you're up to next, only a few months from now, actually, it was your film, your debut feature, Dee Dee, was bought at a Sundance and is going to be showing up this summer, I think. Is that true, David?
That is true. Yeah, NPR bought it. We're gonna have our first audiobook feature. No, we sold it to Focus Features. They bought it. It's coming out July 26th with a worldwide release. But you know, I think movies like this, movies like DT, they really live and die by word of mouth and audiences. You know, small independent feature film at the end of the day. So I think we're having a New York premiere very soon. So keep an eye out. I hope you guys all come. Wai Po actually has a role in the movie. A big role, actually.
This was her audition.
This really was her audition. We casted her in the feature. And you know, people were like, are you sure you want to cast your grandma? And then we're like, well, look at this. And they're like, oh, she's pretty good. So she's like top billing. And we won the best ensemble cast at Sundance. And it was like 3 like trained actors and then my grandma. So yeah.
We should mention that the great Joan Chen is in that film.
Yeah. Joan's incredible, and I don't know, do we have time for a story? Sure. Joan, I mean, we needed a kind of, you know, Joan's kind of like our A-list actress and, you know, very much stepped my game up, stepped everyone's game up, but she comes with such a youthfulness and playfulness. But yeah, I was like, we need to give Joan a good scene partner, and especially for the grandmother role. And so we were talking to all of these like legendary, you know, sort of elder actresses. We were talking to this one actress who has like won 4 Oscars in Taiwan. And there was like, she was almost gonna do the role. She ended up not doing it, but she was amazing.
For the record, I was fighting for Wai Po.
Yeah, Sam was fighting for Wai Po. But you know, it's a feature film and you're like, we can't really take naps on this movie. There's, like, trucks.
I wasn't fighting for Nai, I was fighting for Wai Po.
For Elinor Wai Po, yeah. Well, it's funny because Wai Po plays a character named Nai, and it's this whole meta thing. But I met with Joan, this was before we casted her, and she was like, so who's playing the grandmother? And I was like, oh, maybe this actress, do you know her? She's like, oh yeah, she's amazing. I used to work with her. She would be incredible. And I was like, yeah, it's probably gonna be her or my grandma. And Joan just goes, oh. And then we casted her and she was like, so who's playing the grandmother? And I was like, my grandma. And then the first day they had a scene together, I was so nervous because I was like, if my grandma's the reason this movie doesn't work, like I'm never making a movie ever again, like no one's gonna let me. And I was like, we need to rehearse. And just an indie movie, you just don't have time to rehearse. So like 5 minutes before we shot the scene, we're outside and I was like, Joan, grandma, like please sit, let's read it. And I was like, okay, we can read this like 5 times. I was like, let's go. We read it once and then Joan puts her hand on my shoulder and she goes, you're good, she's amazing. And then she walks away. And I was like, okay, but we should like still rehearse. And then we shot it and she's really good. That's
Can't wait to see it. And so, obviously, best of luck, but really have a lot of fun at the Oscars with your grandma. I think it'll just be the thrill of a lifetime. Thank you so much, guys, for being here.
Thank you guys. I hope you guys got something to look forward to.